Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 Writers Trust Rising Stars live stream. Thanks for joining us as we announce and speak with this year's group of stellar developing writers, poised to dazzle us with their contributions to Canadian literature for years to come. Each Writers Trust Rising Star receives $5,000, one-on-one career guidance from an established Canadian writer, professional development, and an invitation to attend a residency at the Banff Centre for Arts and Creativity. First and foremost, I'll ask you to join us in acknowledging the land on which we gather. From wherever we are in Canada, this land is home to Indigenous peoples who have been here for time immemorial. My own work takes place on the unceded, occupied, ancestral, and traditional lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. We extend our gratitude to the past, present, and future elders and teachers who carry the knowledge of this land. So, my name is Eddie Boudel-Tan. I like to write stories that uncover how strange and extraordinary life can be. In my work, the heroes are always flawed, and the truth is often distorted. This includes two novels, The Rebellious Tide and After Elias, the latter of which was a finalist for the Relit Awards and the Edmund White Award. I was very honored to be named a Rising Star last year by the Writers Trust. The experience of being selected by Brian Francis, an author I've long admired, has been a major highlight of my career, and he's become a valued mentor and wonderful friend. Hi, Brian. Now, enough about me. I'd like to take a moment to thank our generous supporters who are helping to ensure the next generation of Canadian stories thrive. The Writers Trust Rising Stars program is made possible by the generosity of presenting sponsor BMO Financial Group and 5 founding program sponsors, Margaret Atwood, Jim Balsillie, Carrie Cullen, and William Bonnell, Claire Duff in memory of Catherine Shepard, and Deb McLeod and Ward Sellers. Thank you. Today, I'm very excited to introduce the 2022 Rising Stars. Stay tuned for a grand reveal and a group conversation on creation, craft, and the writing life. This program is all about giving a leg up to writers early in their literary careers. Writers Trust asks 5 celebrated Canadian authors to each identify a developing writer with strong potential to spotlight and mentor. This year's selectors are Andre Alexis, Nicole Brossard, J.B. McKinnon, Daryl J. McLeod, and Lisa Moore. And now, how about we meet this year's Rising Stars? Of his selected mentee, Andre Alexis said, "What I detail, the way power and longing are related, and the extraordinary control of language. I feel honored to be able to read her next work before anyone else, and I look forward to learning from her." Congratulations to Thea Mutangi on being named a 2022 Rising Star by Andre Alexis. Thea is the author of the story collection Shut Up You're Pretty, shortlisted for the Rogers Writers Trust Fiction Prize. She joins us now from Toronto. Welcome, Thea.
Everyone, thank you so much for bringing me on, and thank you, Andre. This really feels like a full circle moment for me because not too long ago I was 23-year-old undergrad and Andre was visiting campus and we were studying his work and I was a fan, so I introduced myself because I wanted to do what he was doing. And then 2 years later, published a book reading at the same festival. So naturally, I go up to him and I say, Andre Alexis. And just in case he thought that I was introducing myself as Andre, I clarified, yeah, you're Andre Alexis. And he was so clear that he had no idea who the 23 3-year-old with a notebook full of short story was. 8 months later, both nominated with those same short stories that I had written for the Edward Gibson Award alongside Andre. The very first thing I thought about was, well, never forget who I am. So I'm extremely honored that Andre had read my book and selected me. I still feel like this is the very beginning of my career. So I'm so grateful that he selected me. Thank you so much.
Sounds like fate to me. Thank you, Taya. Looking forward to chatting more with you later. Okay, so let's move on to our second rising star, who was selected by Nicole Brassard, who says, a poet, performer, and inspired activist from Quebec City, her writing is vivid and sharp, a whirlwind of audacity as it touches on womanhood, daughters, mothers, and territory. Félicitations to Vanessa Bell on being named a rising star by Nicole Brassard, poet and director of Contours, a nonprofit in Quebec that connects poetry to all kinds of artistic disciplines. Bienvenue, Vanessa. Vanessa, I think you might be on mute.
I'm just so overwhelmed.
I don't blame you.
Well, I can kick off with that. I was saying, merci beaucoup. Thank you for just saying those few words in French. I'm really proud to be part of that very promising selection, and honored to be the first French writer to be part of this program. Really looking forward to this. And of course, I want to thank, everyone at the Trust, but also Nicole Brassard for seeing so much in my writing and in my literature poster also. So yeah, thank you to everyone. Thank you to BMO. Thank you to the 5 funding sponsors. I had them on my paper, but then you told the names. So really grateful to be here and looking forward to that amazing adventures.
Merci, Vanessa. And looking forward to chatting with you more later. Okay, so up next is selector JB McKinnon's pick. JB says, like all the best nonfiction, her writing she is a storyteller, turning a Canadian eye to the wider world, looking outward as much as inward. Congratulations to Wendy Bone for being selected by JB McKinnon. Wendy specializes and she's coming to us all the way from Indonesia, where it's 2:00 in the morning. So welcome, Wendy, and thank you for staying up late to celebrate with us.
Thank you so much. I wouldn't miss this for the world. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm so honored and really surprised. I was just talking to James earlier about how I didn't expect this. I really had no idea that I had been selected, and I kind of scrolled through my email and went right past Rising Stars thinking, oh, this is just some spam, publishers clearinghouse, you've won $1 million. It's too good to be true. And so I just scrolled past it. And the Writers' Trust have been trying to get a hold of me. And they finally got me through Twitter and said, check your email. And then I finally found it and went, oh my goodness, this is just amazing. As a writer, I'm sure a lot of writers, understand this too. You're basically alone when you're writing. It's at times it's very isolating. And, sending work out to a magazine and then, having it published, it's wonderful. But sometimes it feels like, it's dropped into a black hole and you don't have any feedback from anyone. And so for James to choose me and my writing, it's just such a great honor that he noticed it and said, such kind things about it. So thank you, James. And thank you to BMO. And thank you to all of you at the Writers' Trust. And finally, congratulations to the other writers, the other rising stars. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Next, we have a few words from Daryl J. McLeod on his writing Rising Star. He breathes life into his characters at their first mention and draws you into the gossamer web of his vibrant storytelling, from which there is no escape other than to read a story through to its end. Congrats to Joseph Gekwina Ganesum on being named a Rising Star by Daryl J. McLeod. Joseph was shortlisted for the 2020 CBC Nonfiction Prize. He lives in White Rock, BC. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you very much for having me. This is it was an overwhelming, shocking surprise. I had no idea this was coming down the line. Like some of my other writer friends, I didn't expect this at all. But I'm very honored and grateful for Daryl's endorsement, his kind words, his support. It's funny because I read his book Mama Sketch, and I just sent him a little DM on Twitter a couple of years ago, and I said it's our pasts are eerily similar. I think that's the words that I used, and ever since then, we've just kind of kept in touch back and forth, sending each other little messages, and then this happens out of the blue. So yeah, really, really surprised, really, overwhelmed with, I'm actually a little nervous. So, but yeah, I actually, I want to thank all of the sponsors, all of the people who organized the Writers Trust Rising Stars program, founding members, the RBC. I'd like everybody to know that I create my stories here on the Semiahmoo First Nations territory, and yeah, I'm very, very thankful. Thank you so much, and congratulations to all of the other winners, because I feel like I won the lottery.
Yes, congratulations, Joseph. And so now we're going to be moving on to our fifth and final selector, Lisa Moore, who said this of her chosen mentee. Understands the malleability and materiality of language. He builds characters from the inside out through dialect, cadence, and gesture with a flux of charged emotion. Congratulations to our fifth rising star, Xavier. Xavier is a fiction writer living in St. John's. His work has appeared in the Malahat Review, Riddle Fence, and the anthology Us Now. Thank you for joining us, Xavier, and congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that introduction, Eddie. And for the Writing Stars program, it is really, like Joseph just said, it feels like we're all winners. We've won the lottery in some sense, and like everyone has said, it is a complete surprise. I was totally floored. Like most people, didn't pass over the email for days, and then I was just like, maybe I should look into this. And I'm really glad I did. And I'm so beyond humbled that Lisa feels this way. I feel so strongly about my writing so much as to nominate me for this great honor. She once, when I first started writing, she once told me, she's like, look at your journals, all your the stuff that you've been doing your whole life. Seems like you've always been a writer. So I'm so grateful that she's always believed in my work and my process, and that she feels so strongly about me. I have to thank BMO and everyone else involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier, and congratulations again. So congrats once again to everyone, to all of our 2022 Writers Trust Rising Stars, Vanessa Bell, Wendy Bone, Xavier Michael Campbell, Joseph Kekwinikenisum, and Thea Matonji. To all of our lovely viewers, be sure to use the WT Rising Stars hashtag. Again, that's WT Rising Stars when sharing the good news. We also encourage you to post questions for the writers in the video comments on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll get to those near the end of our conversation. Okay, so we're going to bring together all of our 2022 Rising Stars for just a group conversation. So let's bring them all up. And it's been such a pleasure and privilege to meet all of you and to see the excitement and perhaps even some of the nervousness. Because I have to say that I can relate. I was a rising star just a year ago, and everything that all of you said very much reflects how I felt when I heard the news. Like, it felt like winning the lottery. It felt like someone that I'd known and admired for so many years had just somehow came across my work and plucked me from obscurity. And the gratitude that came with it as well, to know that there is a program like this in place that is here to support and nurture emerging talent in Canadian literature, makes me feel really excited and encouraged about the future of Canadian literature. So I'm really excited for us to get together to celebrate each of you and to get to know you a bit better. So I know you're all excited. And I do know how you feel. But my first question is for everyone. And let's start with Thea. So what does it mean for you to be selected as a Writers Trust Rising Star?
On a personal level, it sort of just makes writing feel more real, more tangible. It's nice to know that there cares about what it is that I'm working on. That's like, yeah, any kind of recognition gives you a little bit of courage to keep going. But on a craft level, I learn about myself that I need a bit of supervision, or at least an accountability buddy. So it's kind of nice that it's sort of going to be, I have someone to impress.
Yeah, thank you. I know how you feel. It's always good to, work on our work and refine our craft and write what we want to write, but to also be able to share that with others and to hear how they are responding to it and get some guidance from, the more established writers who have been in the game longer than we have. So why don't we pass it over to Vanessa? What does it mean for you, Vanessa, to be selected as a rising star?
It is quite overwhelming, actually, and I should say that first, maybe like the recognition of my work was something very big of what I'm trying to build. But I think what was like over the top was just Nicole, who is such a model as a writer, but also as a human being. And to get the chance to maybe, I hope, I don't know, break the language barrier and to see my work circulate in the Anglophones literature area, that would be just amazing. But also to build bridges between all the different Canadian literatures. There's so much to it. And I think like, for example, Thea has been translated by a friend of mine, Melissa Béraud, lately, and then I can read her in French, and that's amazing. Of course, I could have read her in English, but then just to be able to read each other, that is maybe one of the most important thing about the Rising Stars program. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Lovely. All right, Xavier, what about you?
I guess for me, after I caught my breath, because when I finally got the phone call, I had to sit down for a really long time because I was like, wait, what is this? Is this real? But once I realized that, yeah, this is actually happening, it was really humbling to know that Lisa really thought this highly of my work in order to nominate me for this process and for this honor. And it was really kind of grounding in the sense that then I was like, okay, now I need to finish my work. Now I actually have to do this. I'm like, okay, I'll set my own deadline and I'll probably follow it now. So that accountability, yes, it's definitely, so great, especially like in the middle of winter right now. Like, probably just don't want to do as much work as you probably should. So having that come now is really like that like fire has been lit, and I'm excited. I cannot wait to see how my work evolves because of this program and the community that I'm now a part of. It's just it all feels so special.
Yeah, I love that notion of accountability. With recognition comes a bit of responsibility, and I suppose that is a part of it. Joseph, what does it mean to you to be named a rising star?
Uh, it's like, all of the years that you spent, hunkered down in your little hovel, pounding things out, crying things out, screaming things out, all of that hard work. It's extremely validating. Yeah, I was speechless when I first saw, like, I mean, I had to, sit down as well, and my knees started to shake, and my heart was in my throat, and I that kind of validation, it does come with the responsibility, and it sort of made me think like, oh God, now I've really got to get to it. I really got to start working harder. I have to work harder now. So there was that it felt like there was this a giant weight lifted on me, but then at the same time, you have to try to breathe through the experience, and try to enjoy it as well, because I mean, I have to tell you, I was anxious and panicking and had nowhere to, like, I mean, I had to call Daryl a couple of times and say, hey man, how do I, what am I doing here? But yeah, it was extremely validating. 100%.
All right, and Wendy, what does it mean
Yes,
to you?
well, everything. I know that sounds dramatic, but yeah, I totally get where Joseph is coming from, because just before this happened, I was in a place where I've been working on this manuscript for several years and have been getting rejection after rejection. And I have been like getting other work published, but I've poured my heart and my soul into this work and seemed to be spinning my tires. And, then the pandemic hit and I'm at home and trying to write. It was, it was a tough couple of years there. And so this was serendipitous. It just came at the perfect time when I really needed an experienced journalist like James McKinnon to see my work and to see value in it. It's just incredible. I, just like everyone else, I really couldn't believe it. And like other people have said, I feel validated. I feel seen finally, because for the past several years, I've been working, over here in Indonesia, not even in Canada. So really isolated. And I just feel that this is connecting me. And that's a wonderful feeling. It's wonderful to connect with James, with Writers Trust, and with all of these writers that I get to meet today. So it's fantastic. What can I say?
Yeah, that was all very lovely sentiments from all of you, and that notion of like validation, I think is very much a part of it, and I can certainly relate to that. As an emerging author, a lot of it can be a very solitary pursuit, writing, and to have someone like the established authors who selected each of you as part of this program, and to have the Writers Trust, which is this institution in Canada's literary landscape, to say we see potential in you and your work. That really does mean something. Like, it certainly counts for something, and it can open a lot of doors. But like you said, Wendy, connect you to the larger writing community within this country and beyond, which is very invaluable. So I'm very excited for all of you, of course, and congratulations again. So my next question is for Taya. So Taya, you had mentioned sort of like a full circle moment with you and your mentor. Andre Alexis, in that you've known of his work, and now he is going to be mentoring you as part of this program. So when it comes to working closely with Andre, what are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, Andre has a lot of respect for language, right? With Andre's work, it's storytelling, but very much about how words fit together on the page. There's a lot of poetry and music and sound to the way he writes. And my background is in poetry, to witness that up close, right? Like, anyone can tell a good story, but to write words that feel like it's singing, like it's dancing on the page, like that's really what Andre's all about. Really inspired to do that. So it's really great that I get to see that up close.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. And Xavier, what about you? What are you most looking forward to working with your mentor?
Well, Lisa has a very great knack at getting inside the head of a character and just like bringing that person become like this more than three-dimensional image that you're just like, okay, I totally get this person. And I crave that insight and her thoughts about almost about anything really. And especially Teo mentioned language. Lisa is the first person to push me to just write however and not worry about who is going to read it and who might not understand it, but just write to the truth of the characters and let their dialogue just show who they are. So I'm so excited for that.
And Vanessa, what are you most looking forward to working with Nicole on?
Well, for now, I'm looking forward to read all of you because that sounds really exciting, and I'm a reader first. So what can I say? I'm just really overwhelmed with everything you're saying. But with Nicole, it's really actually so far my work has been really dedicated to poetry. But I will be working on a novel with Nicole, so I'm really grateful to work with her, who is a poet and a novelist. So that's, I think it's a big part of that project, writing project. And also Nicole, she's so smart and she has that sense of philosophy that I'm really looking forward to, like, to bring into my writing. I'm more a, well, you can see my hands. I am all about sensation. And I feel like with Nicole, we can do something that will be both intelligent and sensual. I don't know. So looking forward to it and to think about the writing gesture with her, because she's also a literary terrorist and terrorist, not terrorist. Sorry, I'm very bad English. But yes, looking forward to think about what the book can be and what how it can be within the community. Yeah.
Lovely. And it's something that I love most about this program, in that I'm sure each of you has a project you're working on. You now have, someone to kind of help you and support you and nurture you as you are working on what is coming next. And you can apply a lot of those learnings and that experience into the work. So the question next, for Joseph, is, what do you have coming down the pipe? Like, what are you currently working on that you're looking forward to potentially getting guidance from your mentor?
I'm working on a fiction story about a young half-breed boy coming of age, I guess. But I think what I'm most excited about is being able to actually talk, heart to heart, with an Indigenous writer, a very powerful Indigenous writer with, he's a warrior to me, a Cree Nehewak warrior. He's had such a dynamic life. He's in a powerful force, and being able to speak with somebody who has a deep connection to the Cree world, I'm super excited about that, because I couldn't have asked for anything more than that. I'm just so excited to have his input, to have his wisdom, on tap. To help me, to guide me through this process. It's my first novel, so I feel like I need all the help I can get, and I know that as Indigenous people, growing up in Canada, we have some very similar experiences as children and even as adults, fighting our way through the system. It's wonderful to have his input in that, because it's I'm I feel stronger for it. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, is getting inside his head and learning some of that amazing craft that he does. Yeah.
Great. I gotta say that story sounds awesome. I'm already hooked. And Wendy, what are you currently working on?
Well, I've got a few things coming down the pipeline. As I mentioned before, I've been working on a work of literary nonfiction, or literary narrative journalism, about my journey through Indonesia. And, I've been here for 15 years almost. And so this book is about my long journey through the rainforest and meeting Indigenous people in Sumatra, and about how the global consumption of palm oil is affecting the Indigenous people of Indonesia, as well as the animals and the wildlife and the rainforests. So this has been a very, long work that's, I've poured my heart into it for the past 10 years, and it still hasn't really taken off yet. So I'm really looking forward to James helping me with this. He's got all the experience that will be so beneficial to me. James has the ability to see the future. He's able to imagine a future. And in a media landscape that's so focused on, what's wrong with the world, and it's just so negative, James is one of those rare voices that can actually imagine, a better future. And I think that will really help me with this kind of journalism. It's solutions based rather than focused on the problem. And I'm really excited about that. I couldn't have a better mentor, to be honest. And he also has the ability to enable a reader to see the world from a completely different perspective. On almost every page, I find a surprise. And I hope to do the same thing. So I'm really looking forward to learning from him. Oh, and I should say, I do have another book. It's a memoir, and it's about my experience as a 60s scoop survivor. And I met my birth family when I was 20 years old. And that's also been a long journey. So I've got a memoir also that I've been working on as well, that's almost finished, as well as, works of journalism. I also work with Rohingya people, Rohingya refugees from Myanmar. And a lot of Rohingya end up on the shores of Indonesia. And so for many years, these have been like really long works in progress. It's a life's work. And I've met a lot of Rohingya people going to the camps here, and amazingly have followed their lives as they've moved to different countries and found a new life in the US, for example, in Canada, and just how their lives have changed. So that's another sort of long-term work that I'm, working on. I want to possibly write, well, definitely some long-form fiction, or nonfiction, pardon me, some long-form nonfiction about the Rohingya journey, and possibly a book might come out of that as well. So a lot of things going on.
Wow. just a little bit, right? Well, I'm really looking forward to chatting more with you about all of that work that is in progress and upcoming. And we will have a chance to do that, because what we're going to do now is we're going to say adieu to the group here, and we're going to have some one-on-one time. And first up is Vanessa. So Vanessa, we're going to have a few minutes here to talk a bit more about your work and your process and what inspires you. So to everyone else, we'll see you again as a group soon. And Vanessa, So,
Yeah.
congratulations again. I think I've said that 1,000 times already, but I'm just going to keep saying it throughout this entire
In
live
French
stream.
again. I love it.
Félicitations.
There you
Yeah,
go.
for sure. I mean, you can never have too much congratulating, right? So, I understand that your artistic talent goes beyond writing. Is that right? So, you're also a musician. So, I'm really curious about how your musical training has either inspired or influenced or helped your poetry.
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. First of all, thank you for asking. I've been trained as a musician because my father is a pianist. That's his job. And well, everyone in my family mostly does music, but that was not my thing. I was good at it. I was good at it, but I really wanted to write. And I feel like what I've learned throughout music is that music, is a language, of course. And it's the way to think the silence, and it's a way to bring emotion without words. And I feel that this connect really much with my poetry with is like it's really few words, and it's always charged with emotions. And I feel like that's the link with the poetry. But also poetry is all about rhythm and silence, as I said. So I love to be on stage. I love to be on the spot, I must say. So when I am out loud on a stage and reading my poetry, I feel like all I've learned with music is really serving the text to go through the people, to meet the people. So the body and the language and the music all comes together with the emotions, and then the text can go through the public. Yes, so I feel like, yeah, that's the way it helped me.
That's very interesting that you like the spotlight. I think a lot of writers end up going into that field because the spotlight terrifies them. So you might be in the minority, but who knows? And I can relate to that because I grew up playing the piano, and I think similar to your experience, music just wasn't my art form. I didn't feel it the way that I really feel language and writing, but so much of what I've learned playing the piano and learning the piano I think has benefited me as a writer because there is a musicality in the way that we speak and communicate and express ourselves. So often, what I do is when I'm writing something, I'll read it out loud to hear if there is the music in the words, and sometimes there is,
Yeah,
and sometimes there isn't. But I find that guides me.
yeah,
Would
exactly.
you
And
agree with that?
sometimes, yeah, of course. Sometimes the word is very beautiful, like on paper, but then when you say it out
Yeah.
loud, you're like, no, that's really not what I meant, and that's not the charge I want to bring into my writing. And as a teenager, I was sometimes, well, every day, I should say, my father was playing for maybe 2, 3, 4 hours. So I was just sitting in the living room and just like listening. We had nothing, but we had a piano, and that's the way we could connect and create and be into the art. And I felt like he was kind of a bit disappointed when I said, well, music is not my thing, but then I want to write. And I was quite proud of what I'm writing. And I feel like, I don't know, we can, yeah, we can just create together now. So I feel this is something very, it's a big gift actually.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Vanessa, it's been a pleasure chatting with you one on one, and we'll see you again very soon. But we're gonna bring Wendy, and we'll get to know a bit more about Wendy and her experiences and what she is working on. So, Wendy, come on up.
Hello.
Hello again.
Okay, I'm back.
So, Wendy, yes, welcome back. I have a fun fact for you. So, I know that you were living in Indonesia, and it sounds like you have also lived at one point in time very close to where I am in Canada. But my parents come from the island of Borneo, so they were born and raised on Borneo, and they now live in Canada. Um, but I have, yeah, always dreamed about going. But I have visited Indonesia, and I have not gone so far as Borneo many years ago. But the people and the culture and the the natural majesty left such a deep impression on me. So I can see why you went there for what might have been a temporary sojourn and just decided to settle down there because it is such a beautiful place. So I have
Indeed, it
a
is.
question for you, just to dig into that a
Sure.
bit more. So
Hmm.
your move to Indonesia, was that inspired by the work that you wanted to do there? Um, or did you find yourself compelled to write about it once you had settled in the country?
It took me by surprise, my love of this country. I came as a traveler. I wanted to see orangutans. I came as a volunteer in North Sumatra. I went to North Sumatra first. It was 2007. I can't believe how long ago it was now. And I did write an article. So I had a commissioned article to write for Shared Vision, if you know that little magazine in Vancouver. And
Yes.
I was going to write about volunteering abroad, and environmental tourism, ecotourism. And so I had a plan to write this one small article and volunteer with an NGO that was helping to conserve orangutans in North Sumatra. As you mentioned, it's Indonesia has a way of it just envelopes you and enfolds you and invites you in. It's just an amazing place, and I fell in love with the jungle here. I was offered a teaching job, and I'd never been a teacher before, teaching English in Medan, which is the capital of North Sumatra. And I ended up teaching English and falling in love with teaching, connecting with students, you know, having or pardon me, like connecting with students and teaching them, having a positive influence on their lives. So teaching made me stay an extra year. And then I met my husband in Medan. He's from West Sumatra. And so that kind of sealed the deal. I've been here ever since. We got married a year later. And he's from West Sumatra. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's just outstanding. It's Indonesia's really off the radar besides Bali, but yeah, I highly recommend, as a place to visit. And I want to ask you, where in Borneo are your parents from?
So the country of Brunei. It's a
Okay,
tiny little
so you're on the
sultanate.
Malaysian
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, exactly. Um, that's where my parents are from, but I have not yet had
Mm,
the opportunity to visit. But I have spent time in Java, traveling through Java and Bali and Lombok. I loved Lombok, and it's just such
yeah,
an incredible
Lombok's
place.
amazing.
So you
Where in
mentioned
Java did you
before,
go?
oh, I went to Jogjakarta, which is
Hmm.
one of my favorite places. So much culture, so much art. Is surrounded by not really ruins, but temples that are no
Mm,
longer really used as temples, but a lot of really historical and also sacred sites, and it was incredible. Also, Jakarta. So I've visited Jakarta as
mm.
well, and it took a very harrowing train ride between the two for 12 hours, and I did not know if I was going to survive, but that's a story for another time.
I know that train ride very well.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully your experience was more positive than mine, but it was an adventure.
There's extremes here. There's really extremes. Indonesia will push you to the limit, especially in the travel. It can be, quite scary and dangerous, and you think, I can't make it another day. And then once you arrive at your destination, you look around and you go, this is paradise. It's the most beautiful place I've seen in my life. It was worth the pain. And that's
Yeah, it
Indonesia. It's
really
it's
is.
extremes. Hmm.
And you mentioned before about the palm oil industry being one of the causes that you want to use your platform as a writer to build awareness around. And it's interesting because for me and my husband, It's a cause that we feel really passionately about as well. It's amazing how many products use palm oil, and we avoid it. So we are always looking at the labels of everything we purchase to ensure that there's no palm oil because of how environmentally destructive it is. So I'm just kind of interested to hear from you with your investigative journalism, whether it's that topic or any other that you've been exploring. What is the most surprising thing that you've learned throughout all of your work there on the ground?
There are so many surprises in this country. Where do I begin? I suppose most related to my investigative work and my journalism work is meeting the Orang Rimba tribe in Jambi, which is in central Sumatra. And I'd known about them for a few years through teaching, through watching documentaries with my students, and we were all getting an education about, what the indigenous Orang Rimba were facing with the effects of palm oil consumption, narrowing their territory down, almost like a noose. It's circling their territory and getting smaller and smaller. And I finally had the opportunity to go when I, wanted to write this book. And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to get there. Indonesia, it's very difficult to travel around, especially in places where you're not supposed to go, like palm oil plantations. And so I just went to central Jambi with my husband, who's Indonesian, of course. So he helped me. He was, we work as a team. He's a good photographer, also, works as a translator. So we worked together really well. And so we went together. We didn't know what we would find or what to expect. And we met the Orang Rimba at their headquarters. They have what's called a jungle school that was founded by an Indonesian anthropologist by the name of Butet Manurung. And I had read her book, and that's what really inspired me to go, actually. And surprisingly, we walked in. There is about 7 or 8 young men sitting in a circle on the floor. And on the wall was a map of Canada, Ontario, and the native tribes of Ontario, the Indigenous tribes of Ontario. And it was just so surprising to me to see a piece of my country on the wall. And so I asked Pangandum, who's the chief's son, why do you have this map on the wall? How did you get this? And he said, I went to Canada just this past summer for an Indigenous summit. And we just made a connection right there as human beings. It was amazing. He took me into the jungle. My husband and I stayed with his family, his tribe, for a few days, and we learned about their struggles. Which, getting to the surprising part, that the poster was one, but the other is their struggles are so like what Indigenous people, including my own family, have faced in Canada. And it was shocking to me that, the things that my family had faced and suffered 100 years ago, up until now, the Orang Rimba are facing now, today, and still facing. So that was a huge surprise for me. And the other one is it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, it was terrible. The things I saw, there's a lot of Orang Rimbas starving on the side of the road. My ancestors, were called road allowance people after their land was taken in northern Alberta. And here I was seeing shacks on the side of the road with Orang Rimba whose territory has been taken by palm oil plantations. However, it's, as I was saying, it's not all doom and gloom. The other surprising thing was that we laughed all the time. We had so much fun. Pangandum and his family are so resilient. They've got cell phones now that they use to track illegal activity. They're very media savvy now. They're able to advocate for themselves, in the media in Indonesia. They've got their own forest products business. So there's a lot of good things happening too. Just to see the resilience was so surprising and wonderful. They also are tour guides. They can take you up, the mountain and guide you around wherever you want to go. So we've been friends ever since. And, that's one of the surprising things too, is, as a journalist, they're not just a subject to study. They are human beings that are my friends. And it's just been a life-changing experience.
Well, I'm really excited to read more of your stories from your experiences there in Indonesia and beyond. Okay, so we are going to see you again soon with the rest of the group.
All right.
And next, we're going to bring up Xavier Michael Campbell. So come on up, Xavier.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Good to see you again.
Yes, you as well.
So I understand that you were born and raised in Jamaica, and now you call Newfoundland and Labrador home. And I think a lot of people might consider those two places to be very different, right? Like the beaches of Jamaica and the rocks and cliffs of Newfoundland and Labrador. But you said that life in Jamaica has prepared you for your new home. So I'm really interested to hear from you, your take on the similarities and the differences that you've experienced between those two places. And do you draw inspiration from them for your work?
So definitely, yeah, a lot of people most people do have that reaction. They're like, Newfoundland, Jamaica, completely opposite end of the spectrum. But it's been over a decade that I've lived here now, and I must say, like, the similarities, they are a little bit more than the differences. Because the food, from my recent work, I've been like looking into the history of the codfish and all of that, and how it affects and connects both Jamaica and Newfoundland. So the food is like very similar. Cod is a part of our national dish growing up. Codfish here is Newfoundland is cod country. I don't think any other white fish exists here, really. The weather is the major thing, but I was thinking, a year after I moved to Newfoundland, we had a hurricane. And like a hurricane that flooded so many streets, the rivers overflowed their banks. I was talking to my mom and I was just like, I can't believe I left Jamaica that has like a half a year long hurricane season. And I moved to Newfoundland and we also get hurricanes here, plus blizzards. And I was like, that's not fair. So it really is but Newfoundland, Jamaica has these crazy weather events, which could last around a 6-month span. So that is a long time to expect a hurricane, to just pop up whenever it so develops. And so it's the food. The food is less spicy, but we have the same ingredients. The people seem to have this like conflictual relationship with the Queen's English in both places, and it's like such a unique rejection of it in like so many ways that there's so many different dialects that exist across the island, and the same in Jamaica. Like you leave Kingston and you go into the more rural parishes, and you're wondering if you're in the same Jamaica. It's like I've lived in Newfoundland now for over a decade, and I will go to a different little community, and I will not understand what is happening, depending on how fast or where that little town is. So there are a lot of similarities. There are a lot, and I am lucky to like have picked up on them and not just be able to focus on, oh, this place is so cold, Jamaica's so warm, why am I here? And to like weave both places together in my writing a lot. So because I've only lived really in Jamaica and Newfoundland, they're both islands. One is much, much smaller than the other, but at the same time, Jamaica has 3 million people, so it's so much more populated than Newfoundland is. So it's like it is really interesting to just like put them together and just see what comes out of a story.
Yeah, it's really interesting how a place can provide so much inspiration for a writer's work. Now, I got to say, I can see how the people in Jamaica and Newfoundland could be similar in that there's this kind of island breeziness, this friendliness that's inherent in the way they interact. But the food, I'm a little surprised by that. I have to say, I would not have drawn the parallels in the culinary culture. So that's really interesting. And then, really quickly, just a question about your experience as a playwright. So I understand that you also write plays. How is that experience different between writing fictional stories and writing a play?
Play. Well, yeah, definitely the difference is I get to be, well, not as chatty as I want in a play, but I definitely have that freedom to stretch my conversations a little bit more to like really let the dialogue and the direct dialogue flow between the characters. Whereas when I am writing prose, I have to be a little bit more decisive about what is actually being said and what could be said in stage direction or just be like felt. It doesn't have to be direct dialogue. So it's knowing when to pull back in writing fiction is to be like, okay, nobody wants to read this whole page of conversation between these two people. This is not for the stage. So like just go through and find what actually needs to be said. So that is really the difference I find. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never attempted to write a play, but I think I might struggle with that also. All right. Well, thank you so much, Xavier. It's been great chatting with you. We'll see you again very soon with the rest of the group. And now we're going to move on to Joseph Gekwina Ganesam. So come on up, Joseph. Hello,
Hey.
hello.
Hello.
Good to see you again. And congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
So,
thank you very much.
So I understand that you studied writing at the Writer's Studio at SFU. So interested to hear what's the most valuable thing that you learned during your time there?
I think the most valuable thing that I've learned at the Writer's Studio is just to keep writing and to trust your mentors. The Writing Studio it's one of those programs that kind of continues to pay you forward. I haven't lost touch with you know a lot of my cohorts, and we talk all the time. We stay connected. Um, the and we trade work. We pass work together, around each other. It's probably, resilience is one of those things I think that that the Writer Studio has showed me, that there's a lot of resilient writers out there, and powerful writers out there, and the community is alive and well. It's such a supportive community. Yeah, I there's so much I've learned. I've got pages and pages, just books and books thick of notes that I've taken from class, and I still refer back to them. I call my mentors all the time, and they're always there to talk with me and to help guide me through any question that I have. It's J.J. Lee, Andrew Chessum, Wade Compton, Betsy Warland, Hiromi Goto. These are all powerful writers, and they're always there to give you a little bit of a nudge or a little bit of a push, and press your mind to go a different direction if you need to, or guide you somewhere where you never thought you could go. So yeah, I've learned a lot of resilience as well from the Writer's Studio. Yeah. I would recommend that
writers
program
are
to any. Yeah. To any writer, I would recommend that program to any writer who's thinking about growing their writing. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that writers are a resilient people, and a part of the reason we're able to be is because of that community, because we do, lean on each other so heavily to help, nurture our own career growth and craft development, but also because, it is such a solitary pursuit that it's really important that we have each other to sort of, help that community to thrive. It takes a bit more effort for us to be able to make those connections.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they you know, the writing community for me anyways is unlike any other, you know, work community that I've ever taken part in. It's the kind of community where everybody wants to help you up as opposed to stamp you down. You
Mhm.
know, it's so supportive. It brings you up. It doesn't let you down. Even though you might, you know, your own my own personal writing sometimes lets me down because I think I'm on the wrong track. I'm doing something wrong. I'll send it off to one of my cohorts or one of my mentors, and they'll say, "Nope, you're on the right track. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing." And it's just that little bit of encouragement that pushes you a little further and gets you into your uncomfortable zone that makes some of the best writing.
Completely agree. Got to keep pushing yourselves, right? Like it's no fun to write what's comfortable. It's so much more fun to write things that are scary.
It's interesting too because, you know, like stress and anxiety and all of those things that, you know, that we feel every day, you know, I mean, when you can tap into that stress, when you can tap into that anxiety and use it, you know, you use these forces to help you and to make the story more legitimate or more real. And when you can describe that anxiety, that pain, then it just makes the story better. It pulls people in. Yeah.
Yep, definitely agree with that.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. I'm going to see you again very soon with the rest of the group. And
100%.
let's bring up Taya Mutanji. Come on up, Taya.
Hi again.
Hello. Good to see you again, and congratulations again. So, I have a question for you. You seem to
Mm-hmm.
be a literary champion for Scarborough, Ontario. So, your debut collection, Shut Up You're
Mm-hmm.
Pretty, takes place there. And you've also released an anthology that celebrates Scarborough writing. So, as an author who has lived and worked and studied in many different places, what is it about Scarborough specifically that inspires your work?
I mean, I guess it's changed because it's now been what 4 years since I wrote Shut Up You're Pretty. Um, but Scarborough is like a blank canvas to me. It's just like a field of green, so anything can happen. And when I base my characters there, they don't have to be one thing. At least for me, the relationship I have with it is I can manipulate my character however I want because Scarborough, I will be seen as a place where there's no real identity. Everyone is whatever they want to be, and it looks the way it wants to look. There's no specific. I don't know if that makes sense. But I've lived in Ontario. I've lived in Mississauga. I've lived in New York. I've lived kind of all this, and I think my relationship with cities and what they mean has now changed, especially coming back from New York. Um, I think that what's more fascinating is that a character exists somewhere rather than where that place informs a character. I don't even know if that makes sense. In my mind, Claire, character that around, and the character won't necessarily change because of where they're landing, but they're just going to change because of what to do when they get there. So yeah, a little bit, and ultimately, my opinions and my relationship with things seem to evolve a little bit.
Very interesting. And yes, everything you said did make complete sense to me. I can very much relate to a lot of what you said about that. So another thing that you said, not to interrogate all these things that you said, but you said that you were once scared of your voice representing
Mm-hmm.
so many other voices. But then you've learned to approach writing with what you've called an activist's lens. So, what caused that
Mm-hmm.
shift in perspective for you, and what have you learned along the way?
I think back in the day, I had such a one tone understanding of what is an activist. An activist felt very full and felt very decided. At least I used to think back in the days, but I realized that I didn't want to get stuck basically like the pressure of media or publishing or wherever for a specific audience or to write in a certain voice that would complement the conversation that's happening at large, right? That to me isn't really activism, as I think when I was first starting, I definitely felt like that was the case. Now to me, it's like, every day that I wake up and I choose to do something that is stacked against me, like the odds to be successful, considering entities that I occupy, is very big. And just, the gut to wake up and be like, I'm going to write a story anyway, that to me feels like my activism. You have to really beyond staying true to what it means to exist in the body that I do, in the space that I do, in the life that I do. Like, that to me is enough. And ultimately, I feel like the more I exist in this industry, and the more as I'm growing as a woman, and just every day I feel very more like convinced, any form of Black literature is a protest, right? It's just daring to just wake up and choose to do whatever you want to do. Like, that to me is just like that's key. So what shifted, right? So to me, a love story is just as powerful as a story that has a more strongly angled political agenda.
Yeah, 100%. And I've always believed that writing in itself is a courageous act, and especially being writers from various identities, coming from marginalized communities, it takes that much more courage. So I'm really excited to see more of your work as you find and embrace more of that courage throughout your career. Okay, so thank you, Taya, and yes, and congratulations again. So we're going to bring up the whole gang, and we are running a little bit behind schedule, which is really the story of my life. I don't think I ever start or anything on time. So forgive me. But we will take, just a few more minutes just to bring the group together here, and we're going to do what we call the rapid fire round. So these questions are for everyone, and I just want each of you to take a couple of seconds and just provide the first answer that comes to mind. And I'll call each of you out for your answer. So, question number 1, what is your grandest writing dream? And then, Vanessa, I'm going to single you out first.
Well, it's very easy when you're a French writer. It's translation.
All right, great. And then Wendy.
To be a full-time writer, to make my living just by doing what I love would be amazing.
That's the dream. Xavier, what about you?
The dream.
Xavier.
I think it would be insane to have a limited series one day.
Hey, keep dreaming. You can get that limited series. Go for it. And Joseph, what about you?
I think I'm living it now. Honestly, I'm living it now. I write full time. I'm living my dream right now, and this is just one of those experiences that's just confirms and validates all of that. Yeah, living the dream.
I love that. And Taya, what about you?
Totally echo the limited series. I want a movie, babes, like the whole
thing. Get Hollywood on the line.
It's that Netflix one season agent.
Yeah. Hey, maybe someone's watching. If you're watching, you can make these dreams come true. Please be in touch with us. Okay, so the next question: who is your first reader? Joseph, let's go with you first.
My wife, my wife Tracy. She's my first reader. I run everything past her. She's the first one that I talk to. She's the last one I talk to. Yeah, it's my first reader.
Spouses are often the most honest critics, hey, so that's always a good thing for a writer to have. And Wendy, what about you? Your first reader?
My husband. So, not very original there. Spouse again. He's Indonesian, so English is his. Actually, it's probably his third or fourth language. But he knows when my voice is being authentic. He can recognize when my voice is authentic. So that's valuable.
Vanessa, who's your first reader?
I'm not. How do you say in English? Fidèle. Oh, sorry. Anyway, I'll tell you later. So it depends on the project. Really, it's my writer's friend. Oftentimes, my friend Noémie Pomerleau-Cloutier, which is also a poet, and a friend of mine who is a novelist, Audrey Wilhelmy, that you may know from The Body of the Beast. She's with Groundwood Books. So yeah, it depends really on the project and what I'm trying to achieve.
All right, and Taya.
Natasha Ramator or Adrian De Leon, depending on what's the both my co-editors from Failways.
Oh, nice. And Xavier.
I would say Dr. Amanda Bittner, my undergrad honors supervisor. We still have an amazing relationship, and I trust her so much. And she's like, whatever you write, I just want to read it first. And I'm like, okay, you asked for it. So cool. So it's great to have her, but yeah, definitely her.
That's awesome. Yeah, we can't be writers without readers. So I love that question because, I think it's a great privilege, but also really important for us as writers to develop our craft, to find readers that we can trust, who can be honest with us, but who are also supporting us and cheering us on. So I love hearing that each of you have those readers. So I could do this all day, but I'm not. I can't because I know that everyone's got busy lives. Wendy, it's probably 3 a.m. for you now, so so you're probably ready to hit the hay. So let's call it a wrap. I wish we had more time to talk more, but this won't be the last that we see of each other and that Canada has seen of each of you. So I do want to say again, congratulations to each of you. I am so thrilled for all of you, and good luck with your mentorships and the next phase of this program. I found it to be the most wonderful part of the program was just connecting with my mentor, learning from him, developing a friendship even, and I wish that for all of you as well. So congratulations.
Merci.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you so much.
Merci.
See you this
Bye,
summer.
everyone.
Thank
We'll
you
see
so
you
much,
out there,
everyone.
guys.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you all.
So that concludes our 2022 Writers Trust Rising Stars live stream. We encourage all of our viewers to keep the conversation going using the WT Rising Stars hashtag. Thank you to everyone who joined us live, to those of you who are watching the recording on your own time, and to our wonderful sponsors. I hope you are as excited as I am about discovering these amazing writers. Keep an eye out for their upcoming works and visit writerstrust.com/rising stars for more information. All right, with that, I will say see you later. So thank you everyone again for watching. Have a lovely day.